would take the piece of paper and put the iron filings on it, put the magnet on it, and you could see North and South Pole and all that. It was really neat and fascinating. For me, it was super fascinating, and now it's still fascinating. Probably maybe more so now. And so if you look carefully, you can actually see the poles of the magnets and how it manipulates and moves the filings. And I guess that's, to me, is what's really fascinating about them, is to see how these things move and change. And, you know, they're fields that extend out infinitely, these magnetic fields, and that's incredible. You know, when you look at one of these pieces, those fields are touching you. That's wacky. They mingle with your own field, right? We all have them. They're produced in our brain. They're produced by the earth. They're everywhere. And so to have these things, my pieces actually reach out and touch you, that's incredible to me, you know, to think about that.
Well, it seems like it's almost like the same process that works for the tides and wind flow.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, similar, sure. I mean, you know, tidal movement is more based off the moon, which is based off gravity. But, you know, the fact that there's water on the earth, it has to do with the magnetosphere, so.
So, is that one of the earlier pieces or later pieces?
This is one of the later ones. Yeah, the earlier ones were done on steel plates with the magnet still alive there, and there are a few of those in this show. And then the later ones, I started being able to reuse the magnets. So by working in the resin, I freeze it. So this is like done. You know, it will never change because the resin is set. And that let me reuse the magnets and use them in different combinations that I wouldn't have been able to with the other drawings. The other drawings are live at all times. So you remove the nickel film from it, it fades. The image is not there anymore. So it's really important that those magnets be with it. And then you get this like live capture of what's going on. It's not like a film, it's not a record. It's actually showing you what's going on right in real time.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. Granted, they don't change. So I mean, you know, they are fields. They tend to be pretty stable. But you could change it if you wanted to.
No, it seems like they're all generally, well, outside the machines,
right.
They're generally about the same size. I mean, is there a reason for this?
Yeah, there is. It's called I Live in New York. My studio is about 100 square feet. I have a full machine shop in there. I have lathes, drill presses, you name it. So I'm kind of stacked up. So everything that I do now is very small. It's a necessity. You know, I can't afford to store materials. I can't afford to store pieces. And the machines I do have, I need to work. They need to be very efficient. So I tend to work a lot smaller now than I did before. Here, it's easy to work big because you have yard. You work too large, you put out in the yard. You know, it's good, no big deal. But in New York, you know, I don't have a yard. I barely have a 800 square foot apartment. You know, when I walk out my door, I'm on the street, so.
Is there some element where you'd like to go bigger and kind of the draw of Idaho comes in where you go larger in scope?
The only thing I really wish is that I had a little bit more space in my shop. You know, it would be nice to be able to have several things set out so I could look at them over time. As it is now, I'm able to work on one section and then I have to put it away to work on the next section. So everything seems a little disjointed as I'm working. And in fact, I had not seen all of the drawings together at once until I got here. So I just never had the space to really put them out.
Well, what did you think when you saw them all together?
I thought I'd messed up a lot, actually. But that's all right. There's enough there that are interesting that, you know, we'll have a good show.
Excellent. No, besides space in general,
yeah.
What is the major difference? You know, if let's say I'm an artist in Boise,
right,
who's kind of tinkering with the idea of moving to New York, what's the difference between the two?
Well, I mean, I think first thing is that you're a lot more isolated. You know, I have a lot of friends that are artists, but to get to their place or their studio can take me up to 2 hours sometimes. So it's not like you just drop in. You know, I don't have a car. I go by subway everywhere. So the first thing is that you're much more isolated. You know, I've worked for the last month in my studio. I haven't seen a single person. So, yeah, I think I left it 5 times in the past month.
Does it get hard?
Yeah, you get to feel a little lonely, definitely. Or, you know, you only interact with the same 2 or 3 people because they're right outside your door, or they're at the Quickie Mart or whatever. Yeah, it does. It feels very lonely sometimes. Thankfully, you know, the internet's there, so I can always chat a little bit, but it's not the same. And that, for me, was the huge change. Because in Boise, I would have people drop by my studio all the time, or I'd go drop by other people's studio and bring things and say, what do you think of this? So, you know, that and then materials. You know, I order all of my materials now. They all come to my door because trying to carry stuff, even my wood, which is ridiculous. The UPS lady hates me. But to get wood to my house, I have to go to the lumber yard, and there's only one lumber yard that carries anything other than, you know, your general Lowe's or Home Depot stuff. And it's about 2 hours by subway to get there. It's about a 6-7 block walk. So when you get your wood, you have to walk at 7 blocks, get on the subway, transfer a couple times. Yeah, it just becomes a real nightmare to do things. Even the simplest thing becomes very difficult.
Did you sit on the subway with a big pile of wood?
All the time. And people, yeah, you know, I mean, most people are pretty cool. As long as you're staying in Brooklyn, no one tends to notice. If you go to Manhattan, people start to yell at you, you know. But, I mean, people yell at you everywhere there, so you just kind of ignore it. But, and getting plaster is also awful, you know, 50-pound sack of plaster and carrying that. You know, I have a granny cart and stuff, but still doesn't, you know, you have to get down those stairs at some point.
Well, why do you stay there? What are you getting from New York that you can't get anywhere
That's
else?
a damn good question. I'm not really certain. At the moment, I mean, I just graduated about a year ago, so I haven't been there that much longer. I would like to get back to the West Coast somewhere. You know, no offense to East Coasters, but I just don't understand the way they think. So, yeah, I'd like to get back to the West Coast. I mean, New York has these great things to offer as far as, like, you know, going to any cultural event is fantastic there. You know, you can see anything in the world. At the same time, you have to get yourself out to that, and it can be real difficult to do so. And the longer I stay in New York, the harder it is for me to go out and do that. I'm not as excited about it anymore. It happens all the time, so it's not special anymore. And because of that, then, you know, I guess I take advantage of it, and it just flies by.
Now, do you think Boise has enough now for you to be here and be successful?
Well, I mean, I think there's lots of ways to measure success. So monetary is only one way.
Well, I just mean successful in your mind.
I think for me, there's definitely some things that make you successful in Boise, and it all comes back to community. You know, the community here is so fantastic. You don't find that very often. You know, and the fact that it's small enough that you can know just about everyone, but big enough to make some marks is cool to me.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is you're bringing the show back here.
Right.
Maybe you're not going to be in New York forever. Does this seem like a place that you could come back to and still be able to do what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were here, you need to make contacts elsewhere to show so that you can, you know, make the kind of networking that you need to get into the bigger galleries, museums, that sort of thing. So if you move back here, it's the greatest place in the world to work. To show, you're kind of limited. There's only a couple places, you know.
And how's that changed since you left? I mean, the back's obviously moved.
Right. I mean, I think it's getting better and better each year, and it will only develop into a stronger and stronger scene. You know, eventually there'll probably be more places like VAC where you can see contemporary art. You know, I'm partial to VAC, but, you know, I'm biased. And you know, there's other basement sometimes has interesting things, and Stewart's, and or when they had a space, and Jackie at J. Christ, but that's still not very many when you think about it. You know, 5, 6 galleries that you could see something decent. That's a far stretch from where it needs to be.
Yeah, well, where we were in New York, there was like 34 galleries.
Well, you were also in like the, yeah.
I know, but
and the thing about Chelsea too is it's you realize that how much of a business it is there. That was something I did not understand at all when I was visiting, but when I became part of that scene, it's like, man, these people are only after money, and that really, I don't know, it broke my heart. You know, I guess I'm a little more romantic, and I thought that it was really all about the work, and what people were doing was interesting and cool. And the more I was in Chelsea and the more art I saw there, the more gallery owners I met, I realized that it's really not about that. It's about business and about what can sell. It's about investments. They think about it like they use it like it's a stock market for these physical objects.